Welcome to the Top Shelf Dusters podcast. I am Amanda, and after a week-long break, we are back, and we are excited to talk about everything that's happened in these past 2 weeks. And tonight, we are joined with Tyson filling in for Jesse. That's an amazing.
That sounds like him, actually.
Yes, it's like he never even left. I love it.
It looks better without the glasses. I like it.
And joined by Cass.
Well, we're going to do this real quick because we're missing probably the best game all year. So let's get this over with. Go USA.
And joined with Ethan.
San Jose, your arena sucks. That's all I have to say. Oh, and Mickey Mouse. Go Mickey Mouse.
Jesus Christ. If you came on wearing that Jamie Benn Canada jersey, I probably would have reached through this computer to strangle you.
No, this is vintage. I'm not messing with this.
Kick it off, buddy.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to kick it off. So we're going to try and run through things fast. We know there's a big game on, and we want to watch it, and we know you want to watch it. So let's kick it off with some injury news. Matt Barzal of the New York Islanders. He is out about 6 weeks after a minor procedure on his kneecap. Barzal, he's got 6 goals, 14 assists, 20 points, and a plus 10. So an important role, if you can deem that, for the Islanders. But I'm sure they'll miss him.
The good thing is hopefully they still have their first-round draft pick left, because with him not playing, they're just going to sink lower and lower in the standing. So it'll only help the team.
Okay, just because you brought that up, here's something interesting. So you've seen, if you look at all the trades that have happened this season, a lot of first round picks have gone this for like 2025's draft.
Mm-hmm.
The draft class is not great. And that's why they're sending a bunch of first round picks. So a first round pick in 2025 it's more like a third round pick in a great round, or in a great draft class. So I had to bring that up.
I wonder if that's kind of like the kickback from COVID, from shutting down hockey a couple of years. I know, like, obviously the Wyatt Johnson thing, a lot of people didn't know who he was because he wasn't playing the way he was. So it'll be interesting if these players just pop off and not a lot of people know about them as well. So it could, who knows? Maybe there's another Joe Pavelski in the 7th round. Anyway, Columbus Blue Jackets news: Kirill Marchenko had surgery for a broken jaw and is out indefinitely. He was struck by a puck while sitting on the bench a couple weeks ago, and it's all the Dallas Stars' fault because they were playing them. So we're going to blame them anyway. So he's out for a while. Sucks because the Blue Jackets have been very, very good lately, and I think it's good to see some variation in the league when everyone thought they were going to be a first or second lottery team. So sucks for them. Sucks to hear that. Go ahead. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think anything's going to change there. The PA is not going to make them wear full masks, and they're not going to put glass there. So suck it up, and Dallas Stars, learn how to shoot your pucks.
Okay, hold on. A Dallas Stars player also went out in that game because of a puck to the face. So, hold on. No, it was oh my gosh, Bork. It was Bork, and he was blocking a shot, but the puck went up his stick,
Well, he should have his stick in a better spot. We've been over this in previous podcasts. Dallas Stars are brutal. Every week we're talking about a horrible play, a horrible hit, an over-exaggeration. It's just disgraceful for the NHL. They should have stayed in Minnesota. It
makes you feel bad.
Hell of an acting job. He literally punched himself in the face before he fell down. He got the call. I got it. It's brutal. Speaking about the Dallas Stars, Ilya Labushkin is day to day. This is before the Four Nations tournament with an upper body injury. He faced the Anaheim Ducks and he exited midway through the second period and did not return. So there has been no update on him, but hopefully with this time off, it helps them get everyone back and in position and stuff like that. So it'd be nice. So moving on.
It was a trying road trip in California without Labushkin.
It sounds like the Stars are cheating again.
Hey,
speaking of, they're going to be screwing up with the LTIR again. So, Ethan, why don't you talk about that?
Here we go. Okay, we're not Vegas, so let's not paint that picture.
Not yet.
Miro Heiskanen, because of the Vegas Golden Knights and the LTIR loophole foster child, Mark Stone, he suffered that knee injury. We went over it last episode. And Miro went to New York for an expert opinion and ended up getting surgery on his knee. It was like out of left field for me. And he's going to be out month to month, not day to day, not week to week, month to month. So obviously he's not playing in the Four Nations tournament. And the hope was he would be back after, but now it's looking like an LTIR thing. Maybe. We'll see.
I think not.
We need blue line. Oh my gosh. He is, from what I've heard, he is being shopped a lot. The problem is nobody wants him.
To who? The Coachella Valley Firebirds? I mean, come on. Who wants him?
Ironically, he made some great plays in California, but I mean, everyone knows who he is, so. And I'm eating my own words by saying it because I wanted him a year and a half ago, but now I'm like, no. I would rather have Carlson. You've got the next one, Tyson. From what I've read, it's more about he's more concerned about the Vancouver Canucks than Team USA, which, okay, this is a polarizing stance, but the Four Nations tournament, in reality, it's been great hockey. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I wish they did this instead of the All-Star game every year, but it doesn't really mean anything. Like a Stanley Cup means more than winning the Four Nations tournament. If this was Olympics versus Stanley Cup, Stanley Cup still wins, but it's a lot closer. So I respect his opinion and his decision. Vancouver needs everyone healthy. That's the end game. Yeah. Well, and look at like
So-
Shea Theodore. Some people are like, well, it's just a few games. You've got a bunch of days off, blah, 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 blah. Shea Theodore, it took one game, not even a full period.
Don't ruin it. We're going to talk about that later.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Why don't you move on to the next subject?
Yeah.
While we try and figure out Tyson's audio.
Anthony Stolars. He is back in action. Well, after this. And it's a great sign for Toronto Maple Leaf fans. I mean,
he was great before he got injured. They removed the mass from his knee, if I remember correctly.
And Joseph Wall has been playing great. So you've got a great 1A, 1B tandem.
Losing 7 games in the first round. I love it. I cannot wait to see it.
I mean, it's all a road to that.
For 1 year.
But oh, for sure. Yeah, it's been rough for them without Stolars, and I mean 0.929 save percentage. That's something you miss.
That's high this
year. Yeah, the other Matt Murray. But yeah, so good for Maple Leaf fans.
So, as we all know, Alex Pietrangelo was decided not to play in the Four Nations face-off so he can recover from injury. Canada did name Drew Doughty as his replacement for the tournament.
Injury.
So, but he still played, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's played all the NHL.
So he just wants the 2 weeks off to go down to Mexico. Good for him. Also, Makar is ill, so they called Thomas Hartley. And he's actually playing tonight, which is interesting. I heard on the broadcast that he's actually a dual citizen, and the U.S. basically said, screw you, so he went to Canada, and now he's playing for Canada. So if he scores or he does something to make them win the game, that's going to be like a big FU to USA, which would be pretty interesting. So, yeah, I mean...
Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty's also...
Also what?
Also in for Canada. I mean, that was like
I said that
news,
first.
But...
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you can talk about your Shea Theodore injury, saying you wanted to jump the gun earlier.
Shea Theodore, it only took him like a period to get injured, and now
Dallas
he's looking at a week to week. Do what?
Did Dallas injure him?
No, there was not a Dallas player in that. It was a Sweden game. No Dallas players in Sweden.
Okay, S02E18.
But he's out. No, he's for Finland.
S02E18. Same team.
And so, one's the big brother.
Apparently now, yeah.
But yeah. So Shea Theodore, he's out week to week with a wrist injury. Wrist injuries, though, it's not going to be like an LTIR thing, I don't think, unless they make it one.
Also, Igor Shesterkin is out 1 to 2 weeks. It's basically just to get him some. I don't know. I'm assuming this is paperwork issue. That way they can kind of use his salary cap later on in the year. He's out 1 to 2 weeks, but that's the whole tournament. So he's basically just out for the tournament duration. So I don't know if they're putting him on IR just to get some money back in the paper trail or not. But that's something to keep an eye on further on down the line when they're trying to make this playoff push and not be a team that has a lottery pick.
So he's had a couple injury crop ups throughout the season.
Crop ups. So we didn't record last week, and there was some issue with a Ryan Hartman face-off smashing someone's face to the ice and getting 10 games.
You can't do that? That's not allowed?
You can't do that. So basically what happened, Tyson, you were on. So apparently Ryan Hartman took a face-off, he lost, and Tyson, you're good to go, by the way. But Ryan Hartman, he took the face-off, and he basically smashed Tim Stutzel's basically neck into the ice. And the NHLPA gave him a 10-game suspension. I'm sorry, the NHL gave him a 10-game suspension. NHLPA appealed on his behalf. I don't think we've gotten the word back on if the appeal.
He has his hearing with Gary Bettman on Friday to find out if his suspension will be
after the tournament Friday.
It just says on Friday in Montreal to appeal the suspension, so it's going to be this Friday. He has it, so we'll see what happens. I mean, it's something to keep eye on, and I don't know that they lower it. He has a history. You've said it a lot of times, Cass. This is the type of shit they're trying to get out of the game. So I'm going to imagine they're going to uphold the 10-game suspension to make an example of Ryan Hartman, and
then he's going to get traded to Dallas, and then Dallas will be.
But yeah,
Dallas doesn't want him.
Yeah. Dallas.
Apparently, you want Marchand, so.
No, we don't want Marchand.
I saw you're in on Marchand. Don't fucking talk. Jamie Benn and Marchand on the same line?
No. Jamie Benn is not that player.
My wife doesn't like Jamie Benn because he looks like somebody that murdered her favorite character in Bones.
Okay, moving on.
That's a deep cut. No, wait. Hold on. One thing I do want to ask everyone. Okay. My opinion about the Hartman thing is they are heavily leaning on prior infringements on the rules.
Leaning on his neck.
That was so negligent. There's
it was very negligent.
It's not just the history. The history is what got him 10 games. The move itself was completely unavoidable. Like I don't see Gary Bettman saying we'll lower that. I think he sticks with 10.
But here's my comparison. What he did, it was wrong, right? And it got 10 games. But do you think what he did is worse? Remove history from it. Do you think what he did is worse than Connor McDavid or any player cross-checking a player in the head?
I don't know. From behind in that neck region, you can fuck up someone's spine pretty quick.
I feel like I don't know, because to me in a face-off, that is such a while the face-off is a quick motion, that play was so slow that he could have avoided doing that completely.
But what is more important to player safety? Which jeopardizes player safety more?
You're basically asking like which is worse. You're asking which is worse, cancer or AIDS. Basically, is what you're asking because both.
Okay, moving on.
No, but what I'm saying, all I'm saying is that like what a cross check in the speed of the game is one thing. Well, shoving somebody into the ice by their neck in a face-off is a completely different thing.
But
like, I just don't think
there was no speed of the game in the cross. Like for me, I take face-offs for my team, right? So you're low to the ice already. Mm-hmm. It really was just a slow tackle to the ice. Really, he didn't put him in a chokehold. He didn't do anything that jeopardizes his health. I would rather have that treatment than have someone cross-check me full force to the head.
Either way, we're going to table this one, and we'll talk about it next.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So,
well, let Tyson, if you want to respond real quick.
All I was going to say is that I don't know. I think that Hartman's going to keep the 10 games and is just going to be stuck that way,
he probably will, for sure.
Anyway, I just don't think that should happen in a face-off. So, Jonathan Quick became the 15th goalie in NHL history to have 400 wins. He did this against the Vegas Golden Knights. The victory was a 4-2, I think. I don't know how many saves he had in that game, but I'm really surprised on his longevity. To be honest with you, when he left LA, I kind of thought he was done. And I don't know, like, his stint in Columbus was just so amazing. It's just insane to me that he's been able to just bounce so quickly back into his role, and he understands his role behind Shesterkin. So good for Quickie. He deserves it.
Yeah.
In other goalie news, John Gibson has now played 500 NHL games. He's ranked 84th in games played for goalies, only 4 behind the ever injured Frederik Andersen. So, and James Reimer has 512. So there's a couple former Carolina Hurricanes there. Good on John Gibson. It'll be interesting to see if he gets traded or if he stays where he is with them having Dostal. So,
isn't that such a weird? Yeah, he did. Isn't that such a weird like I don't know. It's such a weird parallel between the two. I mean, both of them played in California, and Jonathan Quick obviously has a Stanley Cups and is continuing to see success. And it just feels like John Gibson has never really had that opportunity in Anaheim,
Well,
and they kind of like pilfered his career, you know?
I mean, John Gibson's got 400 wins. Frederick Anderson, I'm sorry, John Gibson has 200. So
For Gibson, it's kind of like just terrible timing. If he had been there 5 years sooner, I think Anaheim has another cup. But Quick was there at the right time, right place, right time.
Mm-hmm.
Gibson, it was weird to hear that he was playing his 500th game at that game. It seems like he's old, but also new or unseasoned. It's a weird.
He's in a weird spot.
He's a quirky guy.
Anaheim. Anaheim is just a weird franchise for the league, and they had that one-off Stanley Cup, and I don't know. It sucks because I was wanting to see him do really, really well, and he has, but just not the way that he probably wanted to.
He needs to be on another team.
Agreed.
I think he'd be so good with someone else. Just a new scenery, new whatever. Blah 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 blah.
Maybe in. Like Boston or something. I don't know. Anyway, do you want to head off onto our next?
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl. He scored his 40th goal. He's got 43 now going into this break, but he scored his 40th against the St. Louis Blues in an overtime win, 3-2.
What a way to get it too.
But yeah, first to 40. It seems like the pace is a little slower than last year. I feel like McDavid had. Or Austin Matthews had more than 40 by this time.
Just remember, Brad Marchand has more goals in this tournament than Leon Draisaitl.
So
we'll move along with that. Washington is the only team in the NHL to have 10 players with 10-plus goals. Alex Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, Alexei Protas, Connor McMichael, Dylan Strome, Jacob Chikrin, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nick Dowd, Andrew Magnapane, and Lars Eller all have 10 or more.
That's insane. Lars Eller just got there.
It's crazy. So, I mean, good for PLD. Good for Chikrin. Those are two players that they traded for that seem to have worked out. Dylan Strome seems to have found a home. And Alexei Protas kind of came out of nowhere. So, good for them. I mean,
I'm so mad.
In their rebuild. So.
I'm so mad the Caps are doing so well.
Well, I mean, they got one of the easier divisions, so.
Okay. Anyway.
Points galore.
Roman swipes. Your turn, Tyson.
So Roman Josi, he now has the most games played in a Nashville Predators uniform. He has 957 games played. Surpassing David Legwind. So good for him.
So he has endured crappiness the longest.
Correct.
Sounds like
mediocrity is what I would say.
I don't know about that. I mean, the next person we're going to talk about has been on a pretty crappy team for many years as well.
Not as long as Roman Josi has.
I don't know. Zach Werenski. He now has the most points in a season by Columbus Blue Jacket defenseman. 59 points in 55 games. The previous record was 57 points in 78 games. The kid's been on fire this year. He is on the short list for the Norris Trophy and the MVP, in my mind. Columbus would not be anywhere near where they are right now without him.
I would agree with that. Norris,
kudos to him.
Yeah.
He's only going to get better. Obviously, this tournament he's playing, you haven't really heard his name too much, which is a good and a bad thing. I mean, if you're not hearing his name, that means he's not making too many mistakes. So, shootout goals in a career. Mr. Patrick Kane has passed Jonathan Toews, his old teammate, which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, Patrick Kane now has 53. Jonathan Toews has 52. The closest current player, TJ Oshie, 49. Sidney Crosby, 46. So
that was that against the Seattle?
Be safe.
Yeah, I would think so too. But that was against Seattle, wasn't it? They had that. That was a pretty cool. I think they went to shootout, wasn't it? Yes, sir,
I
maybe.
think so. I'm not sure. But if you look on this list of like shootout goals in a career, there is no one under the age of 30 in the top 25 that's still playing.
Oh, I believe that. I mean,
It's crazy.
they're so rare to be in this situation, and for Patrick Kane to be as consistent as he has throughout his career in a shootout is pretty telling, honestly. But that's kind of weird. I didn't realize that Jonathan Tays was the number one, and he'd passed him. That's kind of cool.
Ethan's favorite player.
Let's
Ethan's favorite player.
shift the mood to greats, or from greats
All-time
to
greats.
not greats.
First
and,
time-
screw you, Cass, for this list.
I think first ballot Hall of Famer. Honestly,
I think I've got a better shot. No,
I'm
not
actually
really.
surprised he's not playing tonight, honestly.
Yeah, where is he?
it's a best
the
on
man.
best. What the hell?
The man, the myth, the legend. Is it a plane? Is it a bird? No, it's Ryan Suter. He's got 1,500 games played. Somehow, some way, teams still play him on the ice.
God.
And I don't know how, but he's collecting cash money by doing so. So good for Suter. Not good for anyone who's had him on their roster.
Every roster needs a role player, okay?
I-
And sometimes it's important to have a locker room guy. You don't know. He might
Crosby
be like
and
the
Pittsburgh
guy.
player.
He's
Yeah,
pulling.
yeah.
He's pulling
He-
off the greatest heist in NHL history. The
Uh,
money he's.
Have you ever
making.
heard of Matt Bolesky? Are you freaking kidding me?
Have you ever heard of Jack Johnson?
Okay, but
Jackass?
Ryan Suter's getting paid by 3 different teams right now, and he's playing for one.
Okay, well, maybe that he might be up there.
Dmitry Kulikov, 1,000 games played. Right now, actually, he's technically paid 1,005 games, 49 goals, 196 assists, and a minus 28. He was drafted 14th overall in 2009. So good on him.
Pittsburgh Penguins legend.
Pittsburgh Penguins legend. We'll go with that. So that's all. I feel like 1,000 games you have to talk about. Speaking of players who rip people off, why don't you talk about Louis Eriksson, Ethan? Seeing the Bruins got
I'd
screwed on
love
that
to.
contract too.
You know, I've got a soft spot for Louis Eriksson because he was a young player when I got into hockey, and so I love Louis Eriksson.
And he
I
helped
was
you steal
sad.
Tyler
Like,
Seguin.
at the time of that trade, I was sad because I loved Louis Eriksson, but we definitely robbed Boston from. We got Tyler Seguin. We sent Riley Smith. He was good, and then we sent Louis Eriksson. He played most of his career with Dallas, but then he also played with Boston. He played with Vancouver, and then ended with the Arizona Coyotes. RIP. And then he went to Sweden, and he's been playing there, but he's officially done. He's retiring, and good for Louis. You know, I hope he's got a great life.
R.I.P. Hey, every man has an obscure sports figure that they, for some reason, are infatuated with and can't help it. I get it. It's Rob Scuderi for me.
It's Jamie Benn because his first season was the first season I watched hockey. But Louis Eriksson was part of the team.
You also got Rich Peverly out of that deal, who was a heart and soul guy in Boston, and then he died on your bench. So
his heart stopped on the bench. That's right, but he's still part of the organization.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Let's talk what nicknames and logos.
Speaking of RIP Arizona, the Utah logo and nicknames. What a segue. They've been released. Obviously, we talked about that frozen penis name that was scratched off the bat, and now it is Mammoth, Outlaw, and there they are. Outlaw and Hockey Club. And I like the name Outlaw. I don't like the logo because it reminds me of the XFL. What are they called now?
Yeah.
The off-season football league.
That's a good
the
point.
the
Yeah,
Arlington
UFL. Yeah.
UFL,
Renegades.
yeah.
The Renegades.
So I don't like that.
Unpopular opinion. I think they should go Hockey Club, but keep the Mammoth logo.
That's horrible. This isn't soccer.
The problem is, what do you call them? The
Utah Club.
Pittsburgh Penguins.
You
The
call
Penguins
them
are playing
the Hockey Club. You just keep Hockey Club.
the
I don't like any of
Penguins
the. I don't like
So the
Outlaw.
Penguins aren't a hockey club.
Every team is a hockey club.
So the Penguins are playing the hockey club. Which hockey club?
The Utah Hockey Club, the only one.
See, that's where I think the issue is.
No, I just don't like the selections. I thought Yeti was the best one. I don't fully understand why they're not going with that. I think there's like
Trademarks
reasons.
for the Yeti cooler.
Patents.
But I don't know. I'm not crazy about Outlaw. I'm not crazy about the logo for it. I do kind of like the Mammoth name, and that logo is pretty sick. But I don't know.
That far right logo is the best.
I think you should stick Hockey Club.
I feel like if I gave my wife an hour in front of a computer, she can make better logos than all three of those.
Yeah,
but the far right one's good. It's creative.
Is it though? I feel like it's something that they uploaded from NHL 25.
Exactly. That's what this feels like. And you look at that Yeti logo, that is the best one out of the three, but that doesn't say much.
The Utah Mountaineers.
Even better, honestly, but you couldn't because they have what West Virginia is the Mountaineers.
Yeah,
so you probably couldn't do that. I thought they should go with Salt Lake City Soakers, but they didn't hear me out.
You could go Mountaineers.
Bugs me about this is Vegas knocked it out of the park. Seattle knocked it out of the park.
Right.
I feel like if Utah screws this up, they'll forever be known as the team that screwed it up, especially coming from Arizona, the way Arizona's logo was.
They're gonna be the butt of the joke, basically. Is how it's gonna end up.
They got blocked out of nowhere, and I think that kind of hurt them. If that didn't happen and they went Yeti, I think they'd have a great market.
Okay, but this is a franchise ownership group that owns the Nuggets. Okay, you're telling me they're not, or I'm sorry, the Jazz. You're telling me that they don't have enough creative people that they're paying to come up with something better than this?
They didn't create Jazz. They inherited it.
They did, but they still have a lot of
the timeline.
But they still
they got their team.
But they still have a lot of people on their payroll in their creative departments that come up with this shit. My company has a boatload of people in their creative departments that come up with stuff like this. So for a professional sports franchise to come out with something like this just feels cheap. Like what Cass said, this looks like something that you would make in your creative franchise in any sports game out there, any whatever you want to call it.
I know we're trying to move on, but one thing I will say is I think the better path, once the Yeti thing got blocked, they should have just rolled with Utah Hockey Club one more season and taken a beat to really iron this out rather than react. They threw that one name out that was washed, and now it just seems like they're pulling graphics from Google Images.
It feels
put
rushed.
things together.
Take a season, take a beat. I do want to say that kind of clicked in my head, and then we'll move on. Is we were complaining about the PWHL being just team names, and even though some of those logos sucked, everyone has come to accept them and move on from it. Like the Ottawa Charge sucks. Cleveland Cavaliers and Calgary Flames mixed together. So I think no matter what the logo is, as long as it doesn't look like a logo from a video game, I think everyone will get on board.
And it doesn't matter what the logo is; they need to get the stadium figured out. And once they figure that out, Utah citizens will pay out the wazoo to go see those games. It doesn't matter what the name is.
Yeah. Moving on to our next topic, the MSG Network, which hosts, I think is it just Knicks and Rangers? I think it is. Islanders and Devils, probably. They are trying to avoid bankruptcy and are in talks with several other, I guess you would call it media ownership groups. One of them is actually Amazon, looking to potentially bail them out, but they have a huge debt with JP Morgan. I think I saw like 830 million was roughly where it was at. And they're trying to figure out how to fix this issue. One thing I noticed when this story came up is it feels like a lot of media companies that control these sports broadcasts, specifically with hockey teams. I'm thinking of Carolina, for example. It feels like there's been a large spur of a lot of these media conglomerates that are facing financial issues, which really sucks because it's already hard enough to try to watch hockey games as it is. So I don't know what the pattern is with all these groups, but hopefully MSG can figure it out because they broadcast to a lot of people and cover a lot of different teams. I don't know a lot of full details on it, but could be scary for a lot of those fans.
No, not at all. This is good. February 15th, 2025. I'm calling it. Next year, Jesse, wherever you are in the world right now, you're going to be watching games on Victory Plus. You heard it here first. Victory Plus, I've been watching their stats about viewership. They are beating previous viewership by like hundreds of percents. It's wild.
So are they like, is that similar to like, what's that ownership group that just went down? What was it last year, the year before?
Are you thinking of
Bally? Is it Bally? Is it similar to that?
No.
Or is this like a Stars exclusive thing?
So, okay, the Stars were the first team, then the Ducks joined. It's free. You can download the app and stream for free if you're in the region. And you still get ads, just like commercial breaks, but it's accessible. You don't have to pay for a subscription or cable or whatever it is. It's just free.
You know,
and it's working great.
If that was the case over here.
But that really only works for people who have teams in the region. So like if Boston had something like that, Cass could use it. But like me in Indiana, I wouldn't be able to.
You would then just go to like ESPN Plus. But the same thing would apply if you were watching on Bally or Fox Sports Southwest or whatever you were watching on previously. Like you can't watch MSG Network for New York Ranger games in Indiana.
They do. So like if you do the ESPN Plus, like through Hulu, you watch the regional broadcasts.
Right.
So I do watch
but
MSG,
you're watching
but I'm not
via ESPN Plus.
Right. I'm not tuned in directly to MSG. Yes.
Right. So it's still going to be regional the same way, but it's free. You don't have to have cable. You don't have to have a subscription.
Interesting. Well, I mean,
that's my call. I think they go to victory.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, I think the Buffalo Sabres need to figure out what the hell they're doing. Earlier this month,
speaking of spineless,
sackless piece of shit, Tage Thompson was absolutely laid out by Stefan Noesen. The third period of an actual 4-3 win over the New Jersey Devils,
which was a surprise.
None of his players came to his defense. He got absolutely blasted. They canceled the practice the Monday after and instead held a team meeting to kind of figure out why they're sackless.
Yeah,
nothing really came out. I mean, they suck. They had a 13-game winless streak earlier this year, and they were hoping to end this 13-year playoff drought, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I just feel bad for Tage Thompson. He's the only one doing anything over there. There's talks of Dylan Cousins leaving via trade this year. A lot of teams are interested in him. Their goalie, the future Devon Levi, has been up and down from the AHL this year. So it's just a mess there. And it's when are you going to get rid of Kevin Adams at that point? I don't think anything's his fault, but I think he's made a couple bad trades. And I just don't get it. I feel like if Kyle Okposo was still there, that would never happen at all.
Did you I watched it live. I was watching that game, and it was so painful to see. I didn't have anything else on. I was waiting for some other game to show up, so I was just flipping through. And I watched, and literally there are these Buffalo players that are just kind of like looking at him laying there on the ice. Nobody's doing anything. Like nobody moved a muscle. They just stood there and watched him lay on the ice. And it's the most painful thing I've ever seen. Like that is the most deflated franchise I've ever seen play hockey. Like
they're officially beer league level.
They're terrible.
Because that's how beer leaguers act. If someone gets laid out, it's like,
relegation and delegation. Let's go.
I'm trying to think about like when there was a worse franchise, because like even like when the Arizona
Crosby got there.
Not even that word, not even as bad. Like at least they made their playoff drought was shorter, but like even in like the worst, the worst times in Arizona aren't even as bad as it is in Buffalo right now. You know what I'm saying?
And it's cold. No one wants to go there. They're on my no trade list.
Yeah.
At least they got the Bills though.
I think Buffalo needs to have a team meeting about team meetings.
About
That's
all
what
of
they
their
need
teams.
to do.
Yikes.
Then you get a new coach. Lindy Ruffler's not the
Holy
right guy.
shit.
Anyway, we got some
Fire
signings. We
Lindy.
got some signings, Ethan.
Yeah, the Dallas Stars. I was shocked by this one, although I'm happy about it. Sam Steele, great two-way forward, very gritty player. He is signed to a 2-year, $2.1 million per year extension, and I'm happy about it. I think it's great for the value, and he's not going to be like your highest scorer, nothing like that. He's a great fourth liner. Nothing more about that.
Role players are important.
Oh, yeah.
Another signing, Marcus Pedersen did not sign with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He signed an extension with the Vancouver Canucks. 6 years, $5.5 million per year. He was acquired in the trade with the Penguins for Danton Heinen, Vincent Deschardins, and draft pick. So, way to go, Kyle Dubas.
Extension.
You suck again.
And what's the worst part about it is like Marcus Pedersen was like the only player, at least defensively, that was doing anything, and like the whole team around him was failing. Like, dude, I don't even know, because like that's perfect. That's a great price for him, and he is going to do really, really well in Vancouver because he's a great blue liner. He plays the puck well. He's kind of two-sided. He can play both sides of the puck. I mean, I think that's a great deal for Vancouver, and Canucks fans will be happy with him throughout the years. He's going to be quiet, but he's going to play well.
Let me just say real quick, I think the worst part about this, and the craziest part about it, is Vancouver seems like a circus right now with all the drama that just unfolded
and
with
their
JT
moves.
Miller and Pedersen. And despite all of that, Marcus Peterson, how do you say his?
Pedersen.
It's Pedersen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Pedersen. He's like, you know what? I like this a lot better than where I just came from. I'm going to go 6 years.
Good for him.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah. And I think he's got, first like couple of years on his contract, there's no move clause too. So good for him.
Yeah.
Next topic, which is vastly more exciting for me, is World Cup of Hockey is returning. I'm super excited about this. It's slated to come back in 2028. I remember when it was around in 2016, and it was just really, really exciting. They're saying as of right now, they're looking to do about 8 teams. Obviously, there's the things going on with Russia. Belarus isn't going to have a team, but so that's irrelevant. But hopefully, ideally, the world's in a better position in 2028, and we can get Russia in there, because this Four Nations tournament, I think, is a prime example of points we made in the past of missing out on prime talent within the league, because we're letting, unfortunately and understandably, politics kind of get in the way of those things. So hopefully the World Cup of Hockey can come back and we can see a true best on best on a bigger scale.
Russia wins.
I mean,
because Russia wins this Four Nations if they're in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Russia toasts everybody in this tournament, and I think it would not even be close. I do.
I think you're nuts. Who's that defense?
Bobrovsky.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
their
but it's going to be
stacked. They got a couple. They got probably 6 good forwards, maybe 8. Besides that, they're not any more stacked in the U.S. or even Canada.
You're going to be anchored in goal, and you're going to have heavy offense. And I think that's going to be
injured right now.
Okay, but that's not right now. That's not right now. The tournament's not going on right now. But what I'm saying is, I think Russia's goaltending and their forwards are going to put them in a position that would allow them to outscore other teams. It's similar to what like Edmonton was a few years ago, where they were kind of lacking on D, but had decent net and then heavy offense. And you could say the same thing about Colorado a few years ago before McCarr really started taking off.
I get that, but you have to figure in 3 years, Bobrovsky's going to probably be almost retired. Vasilevsky's going to be older, so the goalie's going to be Shesterkin. I mean,
I was saying if they were in this,
if they were in it right now,
they're in now, maybe
if they were in now.
If they're in it right now, they don't have Shesterkin.
Who knows what they'd have
if Russia had the healthy roster as projected, like it should be, then I think that Russia would be a huge contender in this tournament.
Yeah.
I think Canada and Russia would be the two contenders.
Getting back to World Cup of Hockey, there will be no mixed teams. There will be no Team North America, or Team Europe. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. They're playing in Boston and Montreal again, I think.
For World Cup of Hockey, they're taking bids right now for cities. So they haven't announced any cities yet. But hopefully Boston does, because yours truly is going to be at the Canada-Finland game on Monday.
I think it's it's geographically, it's a good place to put stuff like that, especially if you're going to do some in-betweens with Canada, because there's no way you do a World Cup of Hockey and not have some of those games played in Canada.
Well, you think some of the other 6 teams would want games in their home country.
Yeah, but how do you do that logistically? You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
Wrapping this up, because USA just scored. Thank you, Dylan Larkin. We're going to go over some viewership numbers for the Four Nations face-off, USA versus Finland. It was the most viewed non-playoff game on ESPN. It was up 323% in viewership compared to the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, and it's had more viewers than any NHL All-Star game since 1995. So this is working. This is the one, or maybe the second, strike against Gary Bettman, is not having best on best and then having the work stoppages.
Do this every year.
Yeah. So to tie it back in some of the stuff that I read about World Cup of Hockey, their plan is to do a best on best tournament in between years of the Olympics.
Do it every year.
So Summer Olympics is 2026 and then Winter Olympics is 2030. So they're gonna, I think they should do it every year. I think if the viewership numbers for USA and Finland was that high, what do you think Canada and USA is going to be tonight?
We'll be talking about it next week.
Numbers.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, and I don't want to bring the conversation that way because I think the sport of hockey has grown significantly since 2016. But at the same time, I think some of the political tensions or issues that have popped up are kind of spurring some people to tune in, whether that's patriotism or whatever else. But it's great for the game, and I think that this is going to show the league that stuff like this works.
Well, and the other...
I was going to say, this will be the last Four Nations face-off, because if they have another one like this, Russia has to be in it. So it will be a 6 nation at that point.
Yeah.
So. I even if that doesn't happen, just keep with the Four Nations, because you've got people, if there are people out there tuning in because of political things, fine, but they're getting a great product because it's exciting games. No game, I mean, the USA Finland game was a bit of a blowout in the third period, but up until then, and then all the other games have been so neck and neck, you can't turn it off. You've got to watch. You want to see who's going to win. And now you've got like Patrick Laine today after their win against Sweden. He says, we're big brother now.
Yeah.
So not only do you have this US-Canada rivalry, which has been a rivalry for a long time despite politics, you now have Finland and Sweden becoming this big rival as well. And it's just great hockey.
It's good. It is. I mean, I'll admit, and I think you're going to see that stuff anyways. Like when you first watched the early games, the first periods of them were so clunky because you have these guys that have never played together, and so they're trying to figure each other out. So it's kind of cool to watch to see how the chemistry develops on the ice. So if you're a little bit more in-depth fan of hockey, that's kind of cool to see. But yeah, this is amazing for the sport right now, and I think that this is definitely going to be a reoccurring thing. But to Cass's point, it's not going to be just Four Nations anymore. It's going to have to grow to include Russia once that political scope allows that to happen.
But I would rather, if it had to stay at 4, I would rather this than an all-star break.
I figure they should try to do something where they do a regulation. So whatever team does the worst this year is out next year.
Either way, all this stuff is only good for hockey. It's only going to help grow the sport moving on. With that being said, I think we're done for tonight. I think we all want to go and watch the game. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Wait, before we go, since Four Nations will be over by next episode, can we quickly go through Tyson, then Cass, then me, rank the teams based on what you've seen so far?
I think USA wins it. I think Canada is second. I think I think Finland is third and Sweden is fourth.
Same.
I'm going U.S., Finland, Canada, Sweden.
Interesting.
All right.
The black
We'll
sheep
have
all
the
the time.
Recap next week. Thank you all for tuning in. See you next week. Go USA.
USA.